Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be setting up a little health UI and also bringing in a skeleton model for the enemy. So I have this image of a rounded rectangle which I'll be using for the health bars. So I'm just going to drag that into the sprites folder and I will set the texture type to sprite and press apply. So these health bars are just going to float above the characters' heads. And as a sort of personal preference, when the characters walk behind something, like say a tree, I want the health bar to be hidden behind that tree as well. So for this reason, I'm going to create a new canvas and I'll set the render mode to world space. Of course, if you wanted the health bars to render on top of everything else, you'd go with a screen space overlay. Now I'm going to reset the rect transform here so that the canvas is centered at the origin. And then I'm going to create a image, set the source image to the health bar, and I'm quickly going to see where the player is positioned in the world. So -11x, +11z. So I'll go into the image here, -11x, 11z, and this is currently quite humongous, so I'm going to scale it down a whole bunch, like so. The aspect ratio is currently a bit off, so I'll just press this set native size here to correct that. And now I'll bring this down so it's just above the character's head and scale it a bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to set the color of this to red, and then I'm going to duplicate it. I'll parent that there and set the color of this one to some sort of greeny yellow. Now we can set the image type here to filled, and I want it to fill horizontally, starting from the right. So now using this fill amount, we can decrease and increase the state of the health bar. Great, so I'm going to call this health UI, and I'm going to drag that into the prefabs folder and then delete it from the scene. What we now want is a health UI script, which we can add to each character that will automatically spawn one into the scene, parent it to the world canvas, and then make it pop up whenever the character takes damage. So I'm going to go into the scripts folder, create a new C# script called health UI, and open that up. And up at the top here, we can have a public game object for the UI prefab, and then a public transform called target, just for the sort of position that we want the UI to follow. Then I'll have a transform for the UI that we actually spawn in, and a image. I'll call this health slider, so that's going to be the green part of the health bar that we're filling based on how much health the character has. So image is part of the UI namespace, so I'll say using unityengine.ui. And then to set this up, we're first going to have to search for a world canvas in the scene. So let's do a little for each loop. For each canvas C in find objects of type canvas. If the render mode of that canvas is equal to render mode.worldspace, then it's the one we're looking for. So once we've done our stuff, we can just break out of the loop. And here we'll say UI is equal to, and we'll instantiate our UI prefab. We want it to be parented to the canvas that we found, so we can just say c.transform here. And then we'll get the transform component of that. Then we want to set the health slider. So we know just from how we set the prefab up that the green part of the health bar is just the child of the UI object. Since we wanted the green part to render above the red part. So we can just say health slider is equal to ui.getChild, index of 0, and we want to get the image component on this. Alright, I'd now like to update the position of the UI, so I'll say ui.position is equal to target.position, and to make sure the target's position has already been set this frame, let's just change this to a late update. And then I also want the UI to be aligned with the camera, so it should have the opposite forward direction that the camera has. Let's quickly get a reference to the camera transform. So I'll just say transform cam, and then in the start method, cam is equal to camera.main.transform. Okay, so we can then say UI.forward is equal to negative camera.forward. Let's see how this is looking. So I'll save this, and once that compiles, we can select the health UI script and then just go into the prefabs folder and drag the health UI into the UI prefab slot here. That will set it as the default element for that field. So now if we drag this script onto the player, so let me do that, drag the health UI on there. See the health UI prefab is already assigned there. Then I'm going to create a empty child for the player, which I'll call the health UI target. And I'm just going to position that above the player's head, something like so, and drag that into the target field. And let's set this up for the enemy as well. So I'll add a health UI component here, and quickly create empty child called the health UI target once again, position that just above the head, and drag that in there. Of course, if all the characters are the same height, you could just have this as some fixed offset from the center of the character, or you could also do something like calculate the bounds of the character mesh and then place it above there, but just keeping things simple, manually placing this transform for now. So, if we enter play mode, should see a little health bar appear above the player's head and above the enemy's head there as well. Now, of course, it's currently not updating when either character takes damage, so let's get to work on that. So, heading back into the health UI script, we're going to want to know when the health of our character changes. So, let's head into the character stats class and add a public event, system.action. So I want this to have two parameters. The first will be an int for the character's maximum health, and the second an int for the current health. I'll just call this onHealthChanged. Alright, in the takeDamage method, we can then say if onHealthChanged is not equal to null, then we will invoke it, passing in our max health and the current health. Okay, I'll save that, head back to health UI, and here I'll create a void onHealthChanged, taking in also int max health, int current health, and in the start method we'll want to subscribe that to the character stats event. So we can get component type of character stats dot onHealthChanged plus equals our local onHealthChanged method. And since we're just blindly assuming that this object has a character stats component attached, we might as well make it clear that we are assuming this by adding the require component attribute up here, type of character stats. Okay, then back in the onHealthChanged method, let's say that as soon as the health changes, we definitely want the health bar to be visible. So I'll say ui.gameObject.setActive true, and then we can calculate the health percent as max health divided by current health. Since these are both integers, we're going to want to cast one of them to a float, like so. And then we can just set health slider dot fill amount equal to that health percent. If the current health is less than or equal to 0, so the character is dead, let us destroy the health UI. And since we're destroying it, we might as well just be safe and do a null check here. So if UI is not equal to null, only then will we do any of this stuff, and same thing for the late update, if UI is not equal to null. Okay, now I do want the health bar to disappear after a little while if the character hasn't taken any more damage. So let's define some time period up here. I'll call this the visible time, I guess. And maybe just set that to 5 seconds. And so we'll also need a float to know when the health bar was last made visible. So let's call this last made visible time. And when the health is changed and we set the UI to be active, we can say last made visible time is equal to the current time. Then in late update, if time.time minus the last made visible time is greater than our defined visible time, then we want to hide it, so ui.gameObject.setActive false. And we should probably have it hidden at the outset, so when we're first creating it here in the start method, we can just hide it there as well. Okay, before we try this out, just need to quickly fix this mistake I made earlier, whereas dividing max health by the current health. The division should of course happen the other way around, current health divided by max health. Okay, so I'll save that, go into Unity, and once this compiles, I'll enter play mode, and so I'll grab my sword, equip that, and charge at the enemy, and we should see the health bar popping up nicely. And if I stop attacking the enemy for a while, 5 seconds as defined, it should disappear. There we go, and now I attack it again, and it comes back. Okay, next up I'd like to replace this cube we're fighting with a scary skeleton model. So you can download this from the description. I'm just going to be dragging it in here to my characters folder. And once that imports, I'm going to go into the animation section. So it's got 2 attack animations, combat idle, regular idle, and walk. So I'm going to turn on loop time for the walk, idle, and combat idle, and then apply that. Now, for its animator, I think I'm going to just reuse the player's animator. You might not want to do that in an actual project, because the player animator will probably become a lot more complex than is required for the enemy, but I think it's a helpful thing to know how to do, so I'd like to show it here. We're going to create an animator override controller. I'll call this the skeleton override. And we set the controller here to the player animator. And now we can just replace the clips that we want to use for the skeleton. So opening the skeleton up, I'll drag combat idle in here. We don't need the grip left and grip right, so I'll just leave those null. Then we've got an idle. The punch is the attack animation. We can just leave that null since we'll be replacing that from the script. And then we've just got the run, which I'll set to walk since I don't have a run animation for this, and set the walk to walk as well. Okay, now going into the character animator script, we've already got this override controller that's being used for the attack animations. So what I'll do is I'll make this public, and then we'll only set it to a new override controller if it's not assigned in the inspector. So if the override controller is equal to null, then we'll initialize it here. Okay, so saving that, we can then go into the enemy, and once this compiles, we can drag in the skeleton override into the character animator. Oh, it doesn't actually have one yet. Let's add it here, character animator, and drag in the skeleton override. And then the replaceable attack animation is going to be the punch animation from the player, which is a little bit weird, but that's how it is. And then default attack animation set, here we'll be adding the skeleton's 2 attack animations. So attack 1 and attack 2. While I'm here, I'll maybe just slow down the attack speed a little bit to maybe, 0.7. And then I'll delete the graphics from the enemy in the scene, drag in the skeleton instead, and it's a little bit diminutive, so I'm going to scale him up. I think that looks nice. And then we just need to add the animator here, so I'll drag in the player animator. Okay, let's try playing this now. So grab the sword, head over here, should see him walking towards us now. And, oh, I really made him quite tall. It's pretty terrifying. But yeah, that is basically working. The health bar is too low, so I'll have to raise that target transform up a little bit. But it is doing what we want. So, quickly go to raise that up. And now the last thing I want to do is make the character's attacks register damage not after a fixed amount of time, as it is currently set up here in the character combat script, but rather at a certain point in the attack animation. So we'll be using animation events to trigger that. But one slight problem is that the animation event gets sent to the object that has the animator component attached, and this object isn't the one where we've got all of our scripts, in particular the character combat script, so that message is not going to be received. To get around this, I'm going to take the admittedly rather crude approach of having an intermediary script that sits on this object here and sort of passes the message along. So in the scripts folder, I'm going to create a new C# script, and I'm going to call this the character animation event receiver. Quite a mouthful of a name. Open that up, and this is going to have a public void called attack hit event. And in here, we just want to call some method on the character combat script. So I'm going to have public character combat here, and I'll just say combat dot attack hit underscore animation event, so it's clear how that's being called. I'll just copy that, go into the character combat, and create a method with that name, public void attack hit underscore animation event, and then we're going to want to do this stats.take damage code. So I'll cut that out of the coroutine, put it in there, delete the coroutine, and remove the call to it from there as well. But now we do need a reference to the opponent's stats here. So I'll create character stats, opponent stats, and whenever we perform an attack, that will get set. Opponent stats is equal to target stats, and then we can replace that here. Alright, so if we save that, we can then go onto the skeleton, add the character animation event receiver, drag in the enemy object there, and I'll do the same thing for the player. Drag that in there. And now we just need to set up these events on the animations themselves. So I'll go into the characters, first onto the player, and let's go through these animations. So I'll go into events, press this little plus icon here to add a new event, and we can frame through the animation here to get the moment of impact, and then just move the event over to that moment, and want to give the function the correct name, so that was attack hit event. And let me just copy that since we're going to be calling that a bunch more times. So attack 1, moment of impact is maybe about there. Paste that in. And then for attack 2, we've got all of them for this one, so I'll apply that, and once it does this little import thing, I'll head over to the skeleton. Let me make this a little bit bigger, can't really see it. Okay. Add in the event, once again, call it attack hit event, and attack 2 as well. Okay, so I'll apply that, and let's give this one last test. So I'll grab my sword, run over here, let me equip that, and attack, and it does look like the hits are being properly registered. Okay, that is everything for the moment, so cheers.